Welcome to Built for This, the podcast where purpose meets performance. Hosted by business strategist and human behavior specialist Carly Pepin, this show dives into the real stories behind high-growth businesses. Let's bring life to your vision. All right, guys, welcome to the podcast today. So I'm really looking forward today. I have Michael Black with me. Michael Black, he is an inspirational founder and CEO of Success Tutoring. So this is Australia's fastest growing education franchise, and he's also the author of the best-selling book, Millionaire Tutor: Escape Your Soul-Crushing 9-to-5 by Building an Outrageously Profitable Tutoring Business. Michael is a self-made multimillionaire and entrepreneur who launched his first tutoring center at just 17. Michael has grown Success Tutoring into a global franchise with locations across Australia, New Zealand, and now the United States, with other countries coming online in late 2025 and beyond. Known for his innovative student-first approach to education and his passion for empowering young entrepreneurs, Michael brings bold insights on business, learning, and the future of education. He's here to share his journey, the lessons behind building a purpose-driven empire, and how AI and innovation are reshaping the world of tutoring and beyond. His insights, energy, and vision are motivational. He is a highly respected across the world for his people-first approach to business and entrepreneurialism. So welcome, Michael.
Thank you, Carly. Looking forward to today.
Yeah, me too. I'm really excited about this. Oh, also ignore that. That was my alarm reminder for anyone who heard it that just went off. I gave myself like 15 minutes before and it shouldn't have gone off again. So that's life with me sometimes. So I really am looking forward to this. I think it's really cool. You know, we have conversations before people come on the podcast, but just talking to Michael beforehand, he's got a cool story, but also clearly a person who really values business and entrepreneurship. And it's very cool to see like what he's created and how he's helping other entrepreneurs start their own businesses, which is fun as well. So you started straight out of high school, Success Tutoring. And what was driving you at that age to take a risk that most people don't even consider until later in life?
When I tell people this story, a lot of them don't believe me because they see where the business has gone now, and they're like, "There's no way the reason why you started the business was for that reason." And the truth is that I started Success Tutoring in a spare room in my parents' home just to make a little bit of extra money while I was studying in college. So I did a bachelor's of commerce, majoring in management and law, 3-year degree, and while I was studying, I had to get a job, right? So I thought, okay, well, the only skill I really had straight out of high school was tutoring, because I did some tutoring when I was in high school. So when I was in grade 11 and 12, I did I received a lot of tutoring from people, and I realized that, okay, that's something that I can do as well straight out of high school. So that's what I did. I started the business, and I did a lot of the English, and then I got a few mates to do the maths, because maths wasn't really my strong point at that time, and it still isn't. But yeah, working on it. But that's basically what it is. It was just a bit of sort of like a side hustle, something that I really wanted to do, just straight out of high school, and just to make a bit of extra money.
That's very cool. And I'm curious because when did this just side venture start to turn into a real business? When did you first know like this could be something beyond just a side hustle?
Think it came from my passion for business. So tutoring is great, and that's something that I continue to love and I was passionate about. But what really motivated me to keep going is just building the business. So it was just the very essence of like building a website, getting business cards. I remember one of the first things that I ever bought for the business was a magnet that went on the car, right? So got that from Vistaprint, printed it, or did it online, and I put it on the car. And so it was just those little things that really I was very passionate about, is seeing the business grow. A lot of people, you'll hear them say in entrepreneurship that having a business, it's kind of like raising a child. Now, I don't have a child at the moment, because I'm not not married at the moment, but eventually, God willing, that will happen. But basically what I mean to say is, when it comes to business, it feels like actually raising a child or even seeing a plant grow. It's very, very similar to that. And so that's what I felt like that I was doing. And it just quickly got really addictive as well. And I just
Mhm.
loved seeing it grow. So I just kept going and heading in that direction.
Yeah, amazing. And when did you start realizing like this would become a franchise? Did you open multiple locations first, or was it one location and you were like, now it can be a franchise?
Yeah, well, I think it came from the idea, okay, so we've done very well now. So, we're running the tutoring literally out of my parents' home, and then we started like hiring staff as well, and it went from hiring staff members that were friends from high school to complete strangers. So we put like job ads up, and obviously they told their friends as well, and some of them came through that way as tutors. But what ended up happening was just like sort of interviewing people and having them come in, and so as we saw a lot of very strong success in the early days, I was like, great, so we've done this, now it's time to level it up a bit. And I read this book around those particular years in my life, and it's called The Power of Positive Thinking, and it's a book by Norman Vincent Peale. And it's a very, very popular book, actually. It's one of the most popular self-help books, and that really allowed me to have the confidence to be like, I can do it. Whatever I put my mind to, I can do it. So I ended up signing a lease. I think when I signed the lease, I think it was 20 years old or so. And yeah, just signed the lease, got a commercial space and fitted it out, and then we started expanding. And then 8 months after that, I saw a very, very nice space. I was like, that could be perfect for tutoring. So then we launched, and then by that time, we there was three corporate locations. So
Mhm.
it was just about reinvesting everything back into the business as well. Didn't have any didn't have like deep pockets or investors or anything like that. It was just basically like any money that was made and earned in the business was put back into the business, and that's what resulted in that success.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's very, very cool. And so as you're starting to grow the business, right? Would you say like how did you start to figure out how to manage it? Like I actually make it function.
Well, I made a lot of mistakes, and I still do make mistakes, and I think that's part of learning. And so, but I never had it figured all out, and I never do it. And the more that I learn, the more I realize I know less. And so it's always about that ongoing journey and learning. And growing up in a family where my parents never really owned a business, and I never really had any friends or family members or people that I can speak with that had very successful businesses. So I had to kind of figure it out all on my own. So what I did was I went on YouTube, which was the best thing, and it still is, I think, one of the best ways that you can learn something is going on YouTube, but then also just like reading books. So I've just got like a whole collection of books that I've read, and I've been able to learn maybe one or two, even sometimes three nuggets from there, and then be able to apply it.
Mhm.
But there's no better lessons that we learn unless you've got failure. So you've got to fail in order to succeed.
Yeah, no, it's actually really beautifully said because each time we mess up, we learn like why we did, what happened, what we can improve on, what we can learn about, and sometimes what our gap is. Like the failures actually give us the evidence of like what the gap is.
Yeah, absolutely. And it opens up pathways of changing what hasn't been working. So one thing that we did that changed the business was, straight after COVID, it was a very, very tough time for the tutoring business, and for our franchise partners. And so what we did was we ended up shifting the business model. And what we did was we made it like a subscription. So people pay per week with no lock-in contracts. So it just made it so easy to run from a business perspective as well. So our business model works very similar to a gym membership. So we had to make these pivots and changes because we saw that the market was changing, and then also the business was not working at the way that it was. So we had to make those changes. And I think, success is great, but when you get success, you don't really learn anything from success. You learn only from the failures. So um, I think I'm, very blessed that I've failed a lot. And the more you fail, the more you learn and the more resilient you become. And that builds a very strong foundation as well for yourself as a person, like as an entrepreneur, but also
Mhm.
for the business.
Yeah, no, it's very true. It's very, very true. And it's funny because sometimes we try to avoid the failure, but it's in those moments that we experience the parts of ourselves that we're trying to seek anyways. And it's funny, it's like it's all there. Just let yourself go through those challenges and it'll naturally come forward. So I love how you're sharing those dynamics of, it's not just about succeeding on everything, it's also about the failure dynamic. And I'm curious too, so when did you like first realize that this was beyond a local business, that this was something that you could start creating a franchise with? Because now you've gone global.
Yeah, well, I think it's all about like going from step, and each step of the way there's more learnings. And I think it's also having the goal in mind. So I'm a big believer of, the law of attraction, and things happen at the right time. And I believe that a business's success is determined um, by the founder or the CEO, the person that's leading it, because I there's never been a time that the business ever so I don't believe that a business will ever grow uh more than the founder or the CEO. So the more you learn as a founder or a CEO in the company, the more that the business grows. So I think that's very, very connected to it. And it's also about the end goal. So, in the early days, actually, maybe because I'm also a very sort of competitive person, at a young age, I had a stamp, which we actually put that stamp on many of our worksheets, and it actually said, the best tutoring in Australia. And at that time, I just, was running an operation at my parents' home. We had one location. There's really no there was nothing to show that it was the best tutoring in Australia, besides the fact that we believed that it was, and that we had that stamp. So we'd actually stamp it on a lot of the worksheets. And I think that built a foundation as well to wanting it to succeed, because you got to have that vision for it to happen. So before it ever happens, it's like visualization. So a lot of people in business will use the word vision board. And there's a reason for that, is because before something happens, you need to imagine it happening first. And I
Mhm.
was listening to a lot of podcasts and people on YouTube that are ultra successful, and all of them say that they envisioned that thing happening before it happens. And so
Mhm.
that's so important. Mastering the mind, I believe, is one of the single most important things when it comes to business, because the most successful people are the ones that understand that you need to like you just need to believe before it happens. Basically,
Mhm.
you're not gonna have. It's like a very simple thing, which I make this joke with my partner when we're looking for a parking spot. We're going out for dinner, for example, looking for a parking spot, and she might say, "Oh, we're not going to find a parking spot," and then I make this joke. It's not, and I say, well, if you got that mindset, obviously you won't find one. But we usually I'm usually lucky. I'll usually find a parking spot right there in front of the restaurant, and usually it's a very, very busy road. And the reason because you believe, and there aren't many people that are maybe bold enough to think that you'll find a parking spot right in front of the restaurant, but you end up doing it. And if you really believe and you do it, it's just a very simple, silly example, but it's true. It's true. It does happen.
Yeah.
So
I think it's a fun example and a playful one. I am from Los Angeles, so I understand having a hard time finding parking. And whenever we go out and I'll say it to my husband, I'm like for every person that has a parking spot, there's a person that's leaving. We will 100% find the perfect spot for us. Sometimes it's really close, but oftentimes it's actually a little bit further because we like walking. So we have a good laugh about it, but it is true. It's like we will find the perfect parking spot for us. And it's interesting because I love how you're kind of linking this or the power of our perceptions, the power of our mind and feeling into like what we truly want. I am a firm believer of this as well, is like nail what you would love in life, figure out what you would love to do and put as many details into it as possible. And I think sometimes like we forget as people that some goals seem so far away, so far away. But if we're visualizing those dynamics today, present day, now, we can create those opportunities, attract those opportunities that can help us get there. So I have goals that are, I know some one of them, I don't think I'm even going to get started for like 10, 15 years, but I still spend almost daily like doing some research on how I love to refine that, how I would love to create that. And then I'm starting to get connected in different ways with the people that I'd love to collaborate with in the future. And people do not realize like the power of intention and inspiration and how, people are not lucky. We're not lucky. Like I'm not a lucky person. I'm just very focused on what's important to me, and you are very focused on what's important to you. And so when those opportunities arise, we're not mistaking it for anything else. So I think what you're saying is incredibly important.
I think where where focus goes, like energy flows, and I
Mm.
think as you focus more on something, it ends up happening. And so, regardless if it might happen immediately or might happen, in 2 years or 5 years down the line, it eventually happens because that's where the focus goes. And yeah, people seem to think that like the other thing as well, which I've learned as well over the years of studying this, is also what you attract is not it like whatever you attract it like attraction, it's not about how big the attraction is. So like for example, if you attract a very, very successful business, or if you're attracting a parking spot, for example, they're both the same thing. Like
Mhm.
there's no one that's more difficult to attract than the other. It's just about how you perceive it. So what I mean to say is that as long as you believe it, you can do it. So it's
Yeah.
not, yeah. So people might think, oh well, it's definitely much harder to attract like a successful business, but actually no, it's not. It's actually the same thing. It's just about how you perceive it. So but yeah, I can go on for
No,
many many hours on this, but
it's good. But I think it's like what you're saying is really prevalent because then I tell people this all the time because whenever I work with someone and they want to create something, right? If you just want to create a parking spot, that's one thing. If you're creating a business, that's like just many parking spots, but it's still, like you said, a parking spot. But instead of being one, I may have thousands of parking spots compiled into one. So it's going to take a bit longer, but it's still that same level of energy. And it is fun. It's fun to mess around with it and play with it and kind of, um, it's like you get to play with the universe. I call it like like playing with the universe, like being side by side, like with the universe and what it's capable of, and maximizing and feeling your own potential. Because it really is true. The people with the vision and the people who put the detail in it, they spend each day making sure that detail actually comes to life. And the funny thing is sometimes people think it's like it's also not just attraction, it's you're taking significant action on a regular basis to do it. But because you're so inspired by all the details that you're putting into it, you're feeling it, you're experiencing it, there's part of you that just never wants to let it go. And so I can count on you every day to put in the necessary actions and steps to get to the other side, which is amazing. And that's why I tell people all the time, like top priority is get clear on your values, get clear on your vision, get clear on what you want today, which can fully expand as you live the rest of your life. Because the more that you think about it, the more that you invest in it, the more that you draw in those opportunities, but also the more that you physically create and take action to have those opportunities happen because you're just so inspired by it. You just don't want to give it up. It's like the best thing that ever happened to you.
yeah, exactly. So I think when it comes to business, there's different parts to it. And I think the mindset is a lot of the time, like some people will be like, no, you just need to be very good at running a business. That's not true. There's just so many things and um and as a business grows, it's just about like leveling up and being able to understand that like what got you to where you are now isn't going to get you to where you want to be. So you just want to continuously learn and improve wherever you can.
Yeah, and this is a really good point. I know an individual who is excellent at business, excellent, but their business is a mess. And it's because the mindset went awry. So interestingly enough, like the person who knows the most has the worst dynamic on the back end just simply because they had some shifts in the mindset in the last decade, and to see that come back to life, it's going to be a big mindset shift. They have all the tools, they know what to do, but it's like the mindset is really getting in the way. So, which is funny because I was going to ask you what infrastructure you kind of dove into first. It sounds like mindset and education has been one of the huge components. But what other infrastructures did you start to dive into as you started to franchise out? Was it the systems, leadership? Were you working on cash flow, brand identity?
Yeah, so I think with franchising, and I think one of the great things about franchising is you've got a proven business model that's been tried and tested, and you can really bring on the right franchise partners that have the same values that can drive that those particular goals. So having a franchise system is great for that. Being able to build one takes a lot of time and it takes you years. Because the thing about franchising and why a lot of people buy into a franchise is because they're buying into that security because they know that we've been running it for many years. We know what works, what doesn't. We don't know everything, but we certainly do know a lot more than someone that's going in on their own just to start off a business, right? So building the systems and processes and making sure there's like adequate delegation is really important. I mean, right now across our head office team members, we've got about 30 team members, and we've got different, sort of department heads as well, and they need to learn how to delegate, and they need to obviously be able to know like who to report to and all those sort of things. So creating the infrastructure and the organizational structure in the business like that's not something that you can. I mean, you can try to make it up, but also it's best to also look at and sort of educate yourself about how organizational charts work, how communication. So one key driver for me as a founder and CEO has been getting consultants and coaches, like people that have been where I want to go, and so learning from them and learning from their experience, especially from like people that are been in the industry for longer than I have. Like, for example, give you an example, Success Tutoring, one of our, biggest competitors or businesses that we look up to because they've been around for so many years is Kumon, for example. And so we
Mhm.
brought the ex-CEO of Kumon within our organization. And, his name's Alan, and he's got so much experience in tutoring. So he's been in the industry much longer than I have. And it's just about learning from him and being able to actually find out what worked and then what didn't, and then being able to learn from that and continuously grow the business from there.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. That's a really inspiring, basically, strategy, even for internal strategy, where you're just learning and filling in the gaps as well as you go along. And yeah, franchising is like a massive systems and structures because the person on the receiving end definitely wants to just launch with like a fully pre-made business. Hey everyone, it's Carly. If you're really resonating with what we're talking about and want to get clear on what truly drives you, what your core values are, head on over to my website. In the tools and tips section, there is a free values assessment. And this is a quick exercise that's going to help you to uncover what actually matters most with you so you can lead and live with more clarity, fulfillment, and momentum. And I'm curious, so when you think about connecting with all of your franchise owners, right? So you have all these different owners around all different parts of the world. How do you stay connected with them? How do you manage all the situation? How do you even help and encourage their own growth, the advancement that you have? How are you passing that on?
Well, I think it's all about delegation. So, at the end of the day, an organization, continues to grow because of the delegation. And so I always try to make myself not be the bottleneck when it comes to getting, in terms of growth. So I'm always trying to get out of the way for the business to grow. But also, I need to obviously set the direction and the tone and the values for the business. So it's all about like training, coaching, mentoring the team and having them being able to actually basically have their own direction, like giving them the goals, but then having them form their team and build what their little sort of team. So it's just trying to get out of the way and delegating, so stepping away.
Mhm.
I started off as a tutor, so I was doing all the tutoring myself. Then I hired somebody, and that was actually a big step for me because I didn't really want to hire anybody to do the English because I love teaching it and it was something that I was very passionate about. But I had to step back and I really pushed myself out of my comfort zone. So I got somebody to do that. then I started managing the business. So I was like doing all the admin, but then I got somebody else to replace me there. And then, hired two managers. So it was just about trying to get out of the where I am. So, I mean,
Mhm.
just trying to step out of the role and give somebody else the role there and just grow from there.
Very cool. So, what does your leadership look like today? Because it sounds like you've done a great job taking a lot of stuff off your plate that you're not meant to be doing anymore. So, what does it look like for you today as a leader within your company?
So I'm basically the CEO. So it means that I go to grand openings and smile and hug people, give them handshakes, just all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I mean, on a more serious note, it's basically managing and making sure that the team is on the right track, basically.
Mhm.
So we've got heads of departments, and each of the heads of departments, like for example, we've got marketing, education, franchise recruitment, and we've got like a few more of the admin sort of side of the business. But basically, they've got their own teams, and then they're leading their teams. And so right now, my focus is just making sure that they're supported and continuously, growing the business. And like as a CEO, and this, I'm sure any CEO that's listening to this will agree with me, is the CEO is like the glue that puts everything together. They
Mhm.
they don't necessarily focus on one particular thing, but they are focusing on many things. And they're making sure that everybody is on the right track and everything is growing at the same, because we're scaling quite quickly as well. We want to make sure that each department is growing at the same pace. Obviously you've got to like scale the franchise sales side of things first, but then also start scaling like the other parts of the business. Is just making sure that everything is growing. Yeah, so it's also about governance. Making sure that the policies and processes within the organization is set up properly. So then uh, there aren't any like conflicts between departments and things like that. So yeah, all the fun stuff.
Awesome. I'm curious what your personal favorite part of all that is. Like, what lights you up the most?
I think I think seeing it still is since day one. It's seeing the business grow.
Yeah.
It's very akin to having a child, or having a plant. It's about seeing it grow and impacting the lives of students. Like we've got three words that we use at Success Tutoring. That's motivate, inspire, uplift, and we've got those words on purpose, and it's across all of our centers within the inside of the center, and we've got those because those are the words and these are the things that we believe in, and that's what we are here for. We're here to motivate, inspire, and uplift students. We want them to enjoy learning. We want them to have a smile on their face, and we want to really make them believe that whatever they put their mind towards, they can achieve. And so that's why we exist, and that's why we'll continue to grow across the globe.
Yeah, that's very cool because I love how even within the students, like at the receiving end, the customers, they're getting that flavor that has inspired you most and has helped you to get to where you are today. Is like just believe in yourself, know you can do anything. So it's very cool you're instilling not just not just regular core values within the company, but these inspiring things that change your life.
Yeah, exactly. And I experienced it as a student. So the tutor that inspired me the most was very similar to my age. He was like 2 years older than I was when I was in year 12. And he really believed in me. He'd send me a message just before my exam and say, "Hey mate, like I'm sure you're gonna smash it. Good luck with it." And it was these messages that really motivated me. And that's why I did tutoring, is because I felt like that was really good. It really helped me as a student, and I wanted to do the same. And that's why we exist, and that's why we'll continue to grow.
That's very cool. Yeah, when those one mentors have that impact on you, you're like, I want to make a difference too. Thank you. Oh, that's amazing. And so when we think about even your company as it scales and grows, right? Like I'm curious, do you have any like leading indicators, KPIs that are kind of unique to your company? I know everyone tracks different things, but is there something very unique to your company that you guys like to keep an eye out for?
Yeah, I believe it's like number of locations. I mean,
Hmm.
across Australia, New Zealand, and now expanding into the US, and we've just sold two masters, one in Canada and one in India. our goal is to continue to grow our network. We currently have 100 plus locations that have been secured across those particular countries, and we're continuing to grow. And we want to grow with the right franchise partners and continue to grow,
Mhm.
the business, because at the end of the day, the more locations that we can open, the more lives we can impact, both from a franchise partner perspective, but also from a student perspective. And we're very, strong advocates of that. And yeah, look forward to the future.
That's cool. And how do you figure out who's the right fit for one of your franchises? Like, how do you look at like what's your list? What's your basically checklist?
So it's a very mutual discussion that we have with potential franchise partners, and it's mainly about why they're wanting to get into the business. Now,
Hmm.
obviously, money is important, and that's why people may start a business. But what's more important than money is actually the passion and why. Because
Hmm.
when basically when I started tutoring, I didn't start it because I just wanted to make a whole bunch of money. I started it because I wanted to help students, and that's what made the business successful, is actually genuinely helping students. And that's the same thing when it comes to any business.
Hmm.
People should not go into a business because, okay, I mean, money is obviously important because that's how everyone lives. But before that is actually understanding the essence, because
Hmm.
when you actually are genuinely trying to help students, and when you're trying to help parents and families in their academic growth, they can see it, they can feel it, they can sense it, and money will come. Okay.
Hmm.
When I first started tutoring, I was only charging, so yeah, I was charging $35 for one-on-one tutoring, which these days, it can go up to 80. But I was undercharging, but I was doing it because I wasn't really doing it for money. I was just wanted to help. And actually, coincidentally, what happened was, when I charged that and the students started getting some really good results, the parents were actually trying to, they give me tips and give me more money. So money was flowing afterwards. And so that's really, really important. Is understanding the core values. A lot of our franchise partners are not teachers, surprisingly, even though we're an education business. A lot of them work in corporate, looking to get out of the 9 to 5 and run their own business. So
Hmm.
a lot of them are mums and dads. Very common scenario is like there's a mum and dad. Mum's like working part-time, dad's working full-time, and then you know, mum might, for example, run the business for a bit, and then as the business grows, dad might, quit his 9 to 5, for example, and they might dedicate all their effort into it. So, very, very common scenario. A lot of our franchise partners have specific backgrounds. So we have like a lot of franchise partners that are, Asian and Indian, because that's a very large part of our business structure as well, especially because education, like it's very ingrained in their values and culture. But that's basically, like, we just want to make sure that we can partner with them in the long term, because it's not just like a short ride. The agreement goes for a considerably long amount of time, 5 years to be exact.
Hmm.
And we want to make sure that it's the right for them and right for us.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's very, very cool. And so this is like one of those franchises where I'm sure you guys have very inspiring stories where people kind of get to hear about these kids. They overcome like whatever challenges they're having with learning and education. Is there a way that the franchise owners either share that with each other? Do they share it within their own franchises? Because I know just seeing the impact that we make makes a difference.
Yeah, definitely. And we're always celebrating the success of students, and that's across the tutoring center. So, when a student comes in, they'll do an assessment, and then, we find out what their result is. And then after they've completed a particular part of the program, we'll do another assessment to see their improvement, and
Mhm.
and it really motivates them. We also provide students with points, and they can use the points to win prizes. So kind of like an arcade, gamification of the business. So it just makes it really fun for kids. So it really does motivate them and get them engaged and excited to win those prizes.
Yeah, and I'm also curious now because when you started tutoring, were you tutoring other kids in college or were you tutoring younger kids? I actually didn't even catch that.
So when I was in college, I tutored students that were basically, when I first started, very early days, was basically only high school.
Okay.
So it was only high school students, and I did a lot of the English, and then had a few others that did the maths and any other subjects.
Okay. And what is that expanded to today?
Well, we focus on English and maths. We've got holiday programs like coding, public speaking, creative writing. Yeah, across our network, we've got many more team members. I think close
Mhm.
to about 500 tutors now across like the network, and over 100 franchises sold. So yeah, so it's definitely gone from like just like a one man band to a extremely large business, and yeah, that will continue to grow.
Awesome. And I'm curious too, so like mentioned that you're going into Canada, you're going into India. So do you select and try to target the countries that you want to get into, or are you more having individuals that come to you and then you say, let's open this up, let's see what we can do?
Yeah, so it's a bit of both. So we've targeted specific countries, and we're getting a lot of interest from people from all around the world that are interested in taking on the master rights, and expanding the success tutoring footprint across the globe, pretty much. So there is a lot of interest that we're getting from a lot of people.
Mhm.
The most important thing is that partnership, and so with master franchising, it's building that genuine partnership and making sure that we're aligned in terms of values, goals, and because a master franchise is completely different from a single franchise. So a single franchise goes for 5 years, a master goes for like 10 plus years. And so it's a much longer journey, and it requires a much bigger investment, not just from a, you know, money perspective, but also from a time perspective and a
Mhm.
commitment perspective as well.
Okay, that's cool. And so when you say even the timelines that people are investing in, so the 5 years, 10 years, so I'm guessing that's to make sure that they're doing the minimum time frame for you to be able to even invest in them, because I know it's a lot of work for your team as well on your end. Is that accurate? Is that why you have those time frames?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's from both sides because, having a 5 year franchise agreement, for example, it provides a lot of security for the franchise partner and for us as well as a head office. And it also gives us an adequate opportunity to assist them growing their business, and seeing a really strong return on investment, and also good benefit from running the business as well.
Okay. No, that makes sense. And when you are even going into these other countries, like, are there different laws and regulations that your team is tackling? Because I imagine each country is something different. Like, do you just have like one person who focuses on that at that like now? It seems like a lot of. If I moved to a country one time. I moved to Canada for a year. It was exhausting, like all the legal stuff.
Yeah, well, the complexity when it comes to franchise law in the US is probably one of the most complex ones, specifically because each state has its own sort of laws. And so,
Yep.
in franchising, there's very common use of words such as registration and non-registration states. You've got some states you need to register with this particular state in order to sell franchises. So you pretty much need to get permission to sell franchises. So very, very, high compliance there. And then you've got other countries that are, less regulation, such as New Zealand. There's no franchise, regulation there, so anybody can sell franchise. Whereas Australia has a bit of like a middle ground between the US and New Zealand. So there's different laws in different countries, and our business model is not like a copy and paste in every country. We're always making changes and adapting it to the local market. It's very similar to McDonald's. McDonald's, sells the Big Mac, but actually, they'll sell beef in the US, but in India, they'll only sell chicken. And so it's just about those differences that we are able to adapt as well in the local market, because yeah, you couldn't just like copy and paste the same business and expect it to work everywhere. It's you've got to make sure that it's like a more of a localized approach as well.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are really studying like the global economies, global ways of actually implementing businesses because you're completely right. From the United States, every state is a little bit different. So it's really quite interesting. I'm curious, like, is that something that like do you actually take the lead on the education for that, or is that something that you reach out to like lawyers on? And is that seems like a pretty big task.
We basically do it with some consultants, lawyers, and then
Hmm.
we also do our own research as well. So we're always like learning, especially going into a new market. It's always about learning and making sure that we're very well equipped. We don't expect to know everything from the start, but at least we've got like a good foundation to begin with, and then later we can learn and adapt moving forward.
Yeah, no, that's very, very cool. Hey everyone, it's Carly. So, if this conversation is really hitting home and you want to get a real snapshot of what's working and what's not in your business, head on over to my website in the tools and tips section and you can have the business performance health check. In just about 15 minutes, you're going to see where the friction is and where your next growth opportunity lies within your company. And I'm curious as well, like, so now you're learning how to run businesses worldwide, basically. And do you ever think about maybe, is there other places that you'd love to live and create additional businesses? Because I imagine as you're learning about all these places, your mind probably goes a couple places as well.
I mean, I was in California at the start of the year, and I also ended up, traveling a bit around the US. US is a very, very nice country. Really enjoyed spending time there. Currently, home for me is in Australia, so I travel quite a bit across different cities such as Perth, Melbourne, Sydney, and occasionally Brisbane as well.
Mhm.
But I'll certainly be looking at that. I think there's a lot of movement happening in the US. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. I won't say no. I'll never say no, but there could be a possibility. We'll see what might happen. But basically, I've traveled around, basically all my travel has been basically for work.
Mhm.
But the places that I've been, I think, I'm a bit biased to Australia actually.
That's awesome.
It's a very, very nice country. I love the beach. I'm a sucker for the
Yeah.
beach. So I'm just, yeah, I love, spending time there and, going for a morning jog or whatever it may be. So, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Maybe when we start expanding to some other countries, I'll maybe fall in love with the country and be like, okay, this is gonna be home.
Yeah.
But for now, Australia is home.
I've lived in Australia. I was there for a year and man, I'm also a beach bum and there's nothing like being a beach bum in Australia, man. Like you guys have the most beautiful beaches and I could just swim a lot. I have to be careful of sharks, genuinely, and jellyfish and all the crazy critters, but overall, yeah, you get a lot of beach time and ocean time in Australia. So, and the culture is pretty amazing. Like I really enjoyed it. So I could see why you would be drawn there for sure.
Yeah, I mean we've got kangaroos, we've got koalas, we've got beer.
Yes.
It's not bad. The only thing that a lot of when I speak to a lot of folks in the US, and they say basically there's a lot of spiders in Australia, so
Dude,
that's the thing that
it's not a joke. You guys like underestimate what it feels like, by the way. And I lived up by Byron Bay for a while, and you guys have oh, what are those hairy giant spiders? I can't remember what they're called. Those guys.
tarantulas.
They're not tarantulas. They look kind of like tarantulas, but I can't remember what they are. But there's like in your house all the time. And I was living with my roommates, and one of them, Mitch, he was really a gentleman about it. You guys are used to it, and he would take them out all the time. And I just remember one time sitting watching Friends with my friends, and there was a giant spider in the corner, and it's like 6 inches big. And she's like, "Do you really want to get rid of it? It's just gonna come back in." I'm like, "No, it's fine." And you just
Yeah.
succumb to my life is living with spiders, not little ones, but giant ones. So Americans are not wrong. We are not used to that.
Well, as long as they're not killers, because like you've got red bats and they're really dangerous.
Yeah.
But most of the big ones are the ones that aren't actually dangerous. It's the small ones that you got to be
Yeah.
careful of.
That's what they kept telling me. And then I really succumbed to it. And I was like, I guess I live with big spiders. It is
Yeah,
what it
yeah.
is.
It's like you gotta think of it like a big hairy giant or like a big it's like so it's friendly, very friendly, but yeah, but not deadly. It's the small ones you've got to be careful of. So
Yeah, definitely. No, it's an adjustment for sure. No, it's very cool. And I'm curious as well. So as you expand globally, right? And what would you say is your goal as you continue to grow this company? What's your expanded goal that you'd love to achieve to help inspire more of these entrepreneurs to build these franchises?
I believe, in life, I think, and maybe more philosophical here is like, everyone has limited time on Earth, and you've got to make sure they're aligned. And so I think what we're doing with this model and with franchising in general is that a lot of people are just like unhappy in their 9 to 5, and they want something more meaningful and something they're passionate about. And so from a deep, um, you know, philosophical level, everybody needs to feel aligned, and so that's why we are franchising the business, and that's why we continue to
Mm-hmm.
expand, is because these people are genuinely like not happy in their 9 to 5, and they want to find a way out. And so this is one example of a way out for them. So that's one
Mm-hmm.
from a franchise partner perspective. From a student perspective, I genuinely believe that there's like big issues with the education system globally. I think it's outdated. I think it needs to change. There's big
Mm-hmm.
like issues there. So I think having an education mechanism like Success Tutoring, which is not going to completely replace the school system, but at least it really starts to ignite some passion in the minds of young people to believe that whatever they put their mind to, they can achieve,
Mm-hmm.
is deeply important. And I think it's really building the foundations of society. So if you look at the two, it's basically about enlightenment. It's about like getting them to where they want to be, and it's about making sure that they're aligned. Because if you're not aligned and you don't like what you do, you feel trapped. I
Mm-hmm.
use the word soul crushing, and it's true. Like 9 to 5 sometimes can feel soul crushing for those. It feels like a prison,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you've got like a mortgage and you have to pay a mortgage, and then also you're working full time and you don't like it, and at the end of the day you feel exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we exist, because franchising is beautiful, because what you can do is you can effectively use a proven system that works and run a business. And that's why we're here. So hopefully that gives you a bit of a glimpse as to the deep reason why we're here.
Yeah. No, it's really beautiful. And having that purpose that is just, it's actually bigger than us, right? The thing that's bigger than us, the thing that drives us, moves us forward. It's amazing. It's a thing you visualize, but it's not just for yourself, it's also for others and the impact you create. And it does make a difference. It's because when we feel it and we see it and it comes into fruition and we get that feedback, it's really life-changing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just it provides a good mechanism, for franchise partners and
Mhm.
for students, and that's why we exist at Success Tutoring, and that's why we'll continue to grow, because we can't wait to impact more lives of franchise partners, that will continue to see the positive impact, that we bring to them, their families, and also their local community.
Yeah, no, that's very cool. I love the dynamic too of just wanting kids to believe in themselves. I think that's more important than you think. I do also think the education system's pretty broken. It's pretty messed up. And it's interesting because I had a teacher in high school that was one of probably three that encouraged me to not go to school anymore. And the reason being is just this one essay, this one English essay that you're meant to write in junior year, and it counted for 30% of your grade and you have to read three books and compile them all together. And I love reading. So I'm excited about this one. But my books were by Gustave Flaubert, Emile Zola, and D.H. Lawrence. And everyone else wanted to do like Harry Potter and was picking easy stuff. But this is what I loved. I was reading this stuff anyways. And when I said I was having a hard time tying it together, she told me to give up. She told me not to do it. She told me to do easier stuff. And I was like, but I don't want to do those. I don't like to read those books. I'm reading these anyways. And she just kept telling me not to do it. And then I dropped out of that class. I started ditching school to go to work where someone believed in me, ironically. And he was mentoring me and he was teaching me and he was teaching me all the things that I wasn't learning at school. And I was shy and I was not outspoken at all, by the way. Jefferson Wagner, Zuma J, Candace Brown, thank you so much. Now I'm on podcast. Thank you for teaching me how to just speak up. They would laugh so hard because they just used to listen to me talk really quietly. But we as kids gravitate towards those who believe in us, who help us to see what we are capable of, and we latch on and we'll do whatever it takes to be around those people. And I think people forget that, like how bad kids genuinely like want to learn and how much of a gap they feel when they're not connected to learning, especially when they're falling behind from other students. So I think what you're saying, that deeper mission, that purpose is just it's so important. Like it's just the thread that runs in everything.
Absolutely. I think it's we're in the business of changing lives, and yeah, we can't wait to change more people's lives and impact people in a very positive way.
Yeah. And let's look at like, let's say you imagine success tutoring 20 years from now. What are you envisioning and visualizing that you hope actually is going to feel completely new, different, that you've been able to accomplish?
Well, as long as every day we can, we can say at the end of the day that we impacted the lives of students, and franchise partners, and that the business is continuing to grow and impact more lives and providing a more meaningful and purposeful life for everybody that's involved. That's our mission done. And as long as every single day that we continue to operate and continue to grow, we're impacting more lives, then that's our mission completed, and that's our calling.
Yeah. And when you think about staying connected to that purpose on a daily basis, right? Because when we're running a business, sometimes we can easily fall into the numbers and what we need to do and have to do. How do you stay connected to that purpose every day to ensure that it's not just the numbers, but it's also the deeper meaning that's quite fulfilling to you?
Yeah, I think from an organizational perspective, like all of our team members, like they'll all start off doing some tutoring as well. So regardless of um who the person is within the head office, like they'll do some tutoring, they'll understand like the very foundation of the business. Similar to, I mean, when I started, I was doing a lot of the tutoring, I was doing many, many long hours. So I've got a very good essence of the business foundation. But for a lot of people that are just coming into the organization, just understanding what makes, like, the very essence of what makes us what we are. And so it's the tutoring aspect. So, personally, from a personal perspective, I'm always like visiting a lot of the locations. I'm providing support. I'm also like, doing some tutoring as well. Like yesterday, for example, I visited one of the locations and I was actually tutoring a student. I was just visiting and I tutored them, and I think that's a good thing because it allows me as a CEO, to stay connected, but then also continuously improve. And on my phone, actually, I had a few notes and I was actually typing the things that we can do to improve that particular process, right? Like,
Mhm.
and I'll be bringing it, to the team or the head of department to look at it and explore and see if we can improve that. So it's just about being very well connected in the organization, not losing touch. I think a lot of companies might lose touch, like especially with C-suite executives, like,
Mhm.
and CEOs, they might have like no idea what's actually happening on the ground. And I think that's one of the biggest downfalls of any organization is to be arrogant. Like, being arrogant is not, there's no room for arrogance or for for that particular behavior in business. I think it's being about being humble, being down to earth, and just getting the job done. If you do that, then
Mhm.
you run a very successful operation.
Yeah, that's cool. So mainly are you kind of getting a lot of the ground information from simply going to visit places, or is it also, are there other ways that you get some of that like on the ground info?
We've got like the traditional way, which, we've got like growth and
Mhm.
performance managers, which are like business coaches that will go in and they'll provide ongoing support to franchise partners.
Mhm.
They'll report to like a head of department, which is like the head of growth and performance, and then they'll usually report to me. But then there's like other ways, like just speaking directly with franchise partners, or myself actually going to the location and seeing for myself. So there's just different ways. We're a very fluid organization. So like obviously there are like different, roles and a bit of a hierarchy, but at the end of the day, we don't believe in that hierarchy. We believe in ideas. And so ideas always win. So if somebody comes up with like a better idea than somebody else, then we'll just execute that idea. We don't really care like, oh, like this person is of more senior authority. Like, it's not about that. It's about the idea. So there's been so many ideas that have come from franchise partners,
Mhm.
or from, for example, team members that maybe I don't even necessarily agree with, but we've still implemented because it just made the right sense, made sense at that particular time. So it's just about making sure that nobody is a bottleneck to the growth of
Mhm.
the business, and there's no room for ego. You just, whatever idea is the right one, we just go ahead with it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And you're talking about ego and not getting too uppity on ourselves, right? I totally agree. One of my favorite quotes I like to share is BJ Palmer. So he's the father of chiropractic. And he said, take no credit, take no blame, just keep focused on your chief aim. So it's not about pride, it's not about shame. It's just focusing on your chief aim, your goal. And so it's cool because it's like if the goal is to help these kids, help these entrepreneurs, instead of being puffed up about it or put down, it's like just focus on the goal. And then naturally the best decision comes forward. Yeah.
There was this um video I was watching is of Elon Musk, and he had a journalist speaking to him, and the journalist was asking him some questions. And he was actually in the factory of SpaceX, and the journalist asked him a few questions, and he was answering. But then he asked when Elon Musk answered, the journalist asked him, "Well, why do you do it this way? Why don't you just do it this way?" And then he stopped for a brief moment, and then he said, actually, you're right. And then he learned from the journalist. Like the journalist had, like,
That's
obviously
awesome.
it just and Elon Musk, one of the most successful entrepreneurs, this generation, literally said, "Oh, let me see if I can implement that." So a journalist was like asking him questions, and then he used that to learn. And so he didn't say, "Oh no, you can't." Like he didn't automatically try to like rebut or like say, "Oh no, you can't do it that way because of this." He actually just had an open mind and learned. And so that just shows that, especially on the highest sort of degree, running a space exploration business, or whether it's a tutoring business or whatever it may be, it's just about constantly learning because yeah, you don't, yeah, there's no, as I say, there is no room for ego when it comes to business. It's just about executing on the ideas that matter the most, and having
Yeah.
that clear goal there. Yeah.
And also, I think what's cool too is like, Elon's a great example. What you're sharing is a great example. When we're so inspired about what we do, which kind of links back to what we've been sharing, is like focus on the vision, visualize it, connect with it. When you're so inspired by it, doesn't matter who you get the answer from. You just want the answer, you know? And if that day Elon Musk attracted it, there's the law of attraction, like in action through a journalist. He's like, I'll take it because I just want this to succeed. I just want to get this done. I love that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, and yeah, it's just always having an open mind, and never thinking that you know everything, because you don't, and everything just comes. And yeah, so yeah, that's basically it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's very cool. And so if you would give advice back to your 17-year-old self, like what would be a piece of advice that you would love to share that you didn't have back then that you have now?
That's a really good question, Carly. I don't actually know the answer to that. I mean, there's a lot of things that I've learned. There's a lot of things that I've learned, and I think the experiences that I've had have shaped me into the person that I am today. And if I hadn't failed, or learned from my mistakes, then probably wouldn't be where I am. Um, there's obviously a lot of things that I know now that I didn't know back then. But I think the fact that I didn't know them was a good thing, because it
Mhm.
shaped me into who I am now. So, um, if I'm giving my advice to myself, back then, I'd probably say, just keep going on the journey. I genuinely don't have any regrets about anything that I did in the past, and I just think of everything as a learning opportunity. And so,
Yeah.
obviously, I've made mistakes, like, in business, but that's a good thing, because it allows you to grow and improve. Like, for example, lease negotiation, I had no idea how to negotiate a commercial lease, so I've obviously like
Yeah.
made mistakes there. So, it's shaped me to who I am now. So then now I can actually provide support to franchise partners where they're looking at, finding a location. I know how to negotiate a lease. So, but otherwise, if I didn't make those mistakes, I probably wouldn't be able to support them the way I am now. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah,
I
I think
think,
it's taking it. Yeah.
oh, I was gonna say, I think your advice is perfect, where you're just basically like, you got this, keep going.
Yeah, because the thing is, like, life, I think of life, and this is a bit deep as well. Life is a song. You never want to skip to the end. You just want to listen to the song and play to the music. And so that's how I think of life. I'm not trying to skip to the end. Also, um, I don't want to, go back and like listen to the beginning of the song. We're in the song right now. We're in the middle of it. We're enjoying it. I just keep playing to the song. So, yeah, just enjoying it, and just, going with the process, and and seeing where it goes, I guess.
No, that's exciting. I actually completely agree with that advice. Whenever anyone asks me a similar question, I'm just like, I don't want to give away any secrets. Like, I just want to like let me do what I'm gonna do, but I just want me to know that I've got this. Like, you got this. But it's true. It's the journey that really shapes us and helps us to become who we are. And without those experiences, no matter what it is, we wouldn't be where we are today. And so it's important to appreciate like every little bit and piece of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And okay, so tell people where they could find out more about, your company, where they can learn more about franchising. Where can they go?
Well, if they'd like to learn more about franchising, all they need to do is go onto Google and search up Success Tutoring Franchise. And we've got a dedicated franchise website for that, which is successtutoringfranchise.com. So it's very simple. If they're interested in learning more about the tutoring side of things, they can go on successtutoring.com. If they're interested in maybe getting a copy of my book, which I've recently launched, the book is called Millionaire Tutor. It's available on Amazon, so you can search it up as well. And yeah, you can't miss it because it's got a picture of me on the front cover, so you can't miss it. So yeah, it's called Millionaire Tutor. So that's basically it.
Awesome. And I'll put everything in the show notes too, so people can find it directly. And I really appreciate this today. I think we had a really cool conversation. We got to learn a lot about business, a lot about life, a lot about personal development, leadership, all that fun stuff put together. So thank you.
Yeah, really enjoyed it, Carly. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.